Ondřej Hrab is the founder and director of Archa Theatre, Prague's leading contemporary arts venue. Since Hrab took the space over in 1991, Archa, Arc in English, has played host to many of the world's top names in cutting-edge theatre and dance, as well as musicians of the calibre of Patti Smith, Randy Newman and Philip Glass. And given his deep quarter-century association with the venue, it's a natural starting point for our tour of Ondřej Hrab's Prague.
It's my baby. It's the place where if I am not traveling, so I am always here every day, and I know every corner, every place here, and I really feel like being also in service to this place, to give the soul to this place, to make a programming which is attractive for people, which gives new impulses to society, provoke also new ideas, and to test also the ideas about the future. So I would say it's like if the scientists go to laboratory, he or she go to laboratory every day because they need to continue their research. So this is also the place where I have to go every day to do my research.
Over the years, you've had amazing artists, directors, theatre groups, musicians. Václav Havel had his parties here. What for you have been the kind of standout events, if I can ask this question, over those years?
It's very hard to say that, I am proud of having Robert Wilson on the stage of Archa, or Philip Glass, or Peter Brook and his productions, Wim van de Keibus, Anna Teresa de Kersmacher. Of course, these artists, I love their work. But at the same time, sometimes you bring totally unknown artist, and his impact on the audience and his message to society is as important as the message of these big artists.
Archa Theatre is on the street Napořičí, which is quite lively but maybe not so attractive. How do you find this part of the city?
Well, we are still in the center of the city. It's not... is historically, actually, the development of the city finished nearby here during the crisis of 20. So in the communist times, everything was actually frozen. So only recently this neighborhood started to develop again, and maybe in next 20 years you will not recognize this part of the city. Maybe it will be a new center. I'm amazed by the dynamic of our neighborhood, and I'm very happy that we can be part of it, and we can bring to this part of the city people who have critical mind, who are not only traditional consumers of commercial art, or don't go to department stores, or they don't go to the offices next door, but they bring the color to the people on the street next to Archa Theatre.
Not far from Archa Theatre, by the Vltava in the Karlín district, is an outdoor alternative arts venue named Přístav. When Ondřej Hrab takes me there, past the shining new office and apartment blocks that have sprung up in Karlín in recent years, it's out of season. Nevertheless, it isn't hard to imagine the piece of untamed land, metres from the river, as a very pleasant place to be on a summer's evening.
Few years ago, it was really wild nature here. It was probably the last piece of wild nature in Prague. And group of artists and art managers who worked for the National Theatre, and they were fired some years ago, they decided to change this piece of land into a place where people could meet, where they could have concerts, they could have theatre performances, they could create an alternative to the, let's say, the city life of establishment which starts a few hundred meters from here.
Well, I'm kind of surprised to see this place because this whole area by the river here in Caerleon has been so developed. I'm surprised to find this kind of still free area.
Well, this place has an advantage, which is actually this wall nearby here. So we are still in the area of flood, so it actually protects the space. So this is sort of like oasis of alternative culture in Prague.
I was reading that it used to be a train station. It's dark here now, we're here in the evening. Is there any evidence that it was a train station during the day that you can see?
No. Actually, only you can feel that actually the ground is not the ground which was not industrial in the past. So you can see parts of concrete and stones and so on. But the nature took this area back in the mid of 20th century when the trains stopped bringing, actually the freight trains stopped to come here, and the whole area was actually abandoned for almost 50 years. So you can see huge trees, the bushes around, and they are not young. So actually it is hope also that the nature can get its property back. The idea of the artist who created this space was also to respect the nature. It's not something would develop some entertainment park here. It's everything here is made with the respect to culture. One day you can see people sitting around a fire like in the middle of the woods and just sing the songs. The other day there is a reading of literature, and next day there is a tent with a theatre performance, and on weekends usually some acoustic concerts. So they really want to bring the community life here with the respect to nature. That's what I like on this place.
And you were telling me, Ondřej, that you cycle down this way.
Yeah, well, because next here is the cycle path which is leading through Caerleon and then to Libeň. And actually when I'm biking back home from the theatre, usually I stop by here for a glass of beer, and usually I find some young friend here to talk. So for me it's the place also for refreshment and for unexpected meetings.
Our tour of Ondřej Hrab's Prague concludes across the street from Archa Theatre at the Art Nouveau Café Imperial. Now a grand spot, the property was run by a trade union organisation in the communist era and lay abandoned with paper covering the windows throughout the 1990s. But then Hrab tells me he and Archa played a major role in its revival.
In the year 2000, we were organizing a meeting of AITM, which is the network of contemporary performing arts in Europe, and we had like 500 guests, and we were looking for some kind of hangout, some place where they could meet, drink some glass of wine or beer or have a coffee and discuss their work. And we could not find a place in the neighborhood of Archa Theatre. And one day I just said, well, what's behind these papers on the windows? Who owns the house? And it appeared that one of the reasons that the place was so long abandoned was that there were some claim of the original owners, but they were not united in their claim, and so the trade unions were still keeping the building. So we went to the trade unions and they said, okay, we have the key. They opened this wonderful room, and we were amazed. It was intact. It was like if you went back to the beginning of 20th century. These tiles and beautiful decoration it was not destroyed at all, but there was no electricity and no water. So what we did, we hired the company, catering company, who did usually some festivals, and they knew how to find the electricity, and they knew how to bring the water. And for 3 days we squatted, actually, this place. Some members of the IETM still remember that after 16 years. They said it was probably the most beautiful meeting place they ever visited. So we actually reopened this cafe to the public.
Well, I remember coming here, 15 years ago or something, and it was like it is today, but not so fancy. It was more ordinary. It was also more affordable.
Yes.
And I remember there was a strange thing on the menu that if you bought 25 donuts, you could throw them at the other people. What was that story? Do you remember?
Yeah, well, this was the story taken from the novel of the Czech writer Zdeněk Jirotka. This was one of the most popular comic novel.
It's called Saturnin, right?
Saturnin, and actually he was describing people according the fact what they do when they see the pile of donuts. And so there are people who, the most conventional people, who say pile of donuts, this is something what I would not be able to eat in a day. Then there are people who say, oh, what if I would throw these donuts on people in this restaurant? And these are imaginative people, but not people of action. And then there are people who don't ask anything, and they just go and throw the donuts on people.
In all my times coming here, I never saw anybody throwing the donuts. Did you ever see it?
I heard about it, but I think usually it happened late in the night, in some situation, usually when some group of people was having a party here. So, but I also didn't witness anybody to throw donuts.